It's time for me to give you guys my honest opinion of popular book talk books, and I've already done a video where I shared my thoughts on viral book talk books that you should actually read, but I'm just gonna be literally going through so many books, just rapid fire, telling you guys my thoughts as to whether you should read it, whether it's worth it, whether it's not, whether I enjoyed it, whether just all the things. So make sure you guys are subscribed, and let's get in this video, and I hope you guys enjoy. We're gonna start off with just going through little stacks because I don't know, I feel like just talking about books just off the cuff will be more fun than just sectioning them out. I feel like normally I'll be these are fluffy book recs, or these are thrillers, or whatever. I'm just gonna go through this massive stack that I have. We'll start with tiny stacks, and the first book that I want to share my thoughts on is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So I really enjoy Colleen Hoover's writing. I feel like her writing is great for new readers. I always recommend her books to new readers, but this one did not hit for me. I think I rated this one 2 stars, and this was in the what's it called? I was heavy in her books at this point. I have read November 9th, I've read Layla, I've read Verity, I've read Hopeless, I've read Reminders of Him, I've read It Starts With Us, I've read It Ends With Us. I've just read so many of her books without merit. But I've been reading her books since 2013. One of the first books I read of hers was Hopeless in 2013, I'm pretty sure. And I remember I was oh my God, this is so good. Gave it to one of my friends to read. And then I think I read Ugly Love shortly after that, maybe 2014 or something. I forget. It was right after it was kind of getting big again. But then I feel like she really popped off in 2020. And this book just didn't hit for me. I feel like this book was just not my favorite because I wish that the ending had really honed in on why these types of relationships can be unhealthy. And I do recognize that as an author, she was I want to show people why people stay in these types of relationships. And if you haven't read this book, I don't want to spoil anything, but her mom, I guess, was in a relationship that was similar to the characters in this book. So I do think it made me have a bigger perspective on why people stay in these relationships. But overall, I was just yeah, I don't know if I'm obsessed with this. I just wasn't the biggest fan. And then another book talk book that I picked up was The Idea of You by Robin Lee. Now this book is by a Black author, and she is not I don't think she writes a ton of books. Maybe I am wrong. I feel like she does movies and stuff. Yeah, she said that she appeared in Hitch, 7 Pounds, and 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Free. So I don't even know if she normally writes a lot of books, but I wanted to share this book because the movie is coming out or just came out or something like that. I'm planning on watching the movie because I feel like the movie will be entertaining, but the book, I didn't really like it. I didn't like how it ended, and I also didn't really care for the storyline. I know that there was an age gap, and that didn't really bother me too much, but I think what I didn't really care for was the entire story felt it was just on loop. They would go to an art gallery, and then they would travel together, and they would go to another art gallery, and they would travel together, and I was just where are we going with this? So I was just a little bored in the middle, and I do think the movie will be really good. The Summer I Turned Pretty is a book that I was obsessed with, still am obsessed with. I think I rated this one 4 stars. I rated them all 4 stars, mostly because of the nostalgia. This book reminded me of what it felt like to be young and just eating popsicles outside and swimming in the pool and having summers with friends. I think that this is the perfect summer book to read, especially if you want to get those nostalgic feelings that maybe you got as a kid. This book is so nostalgic. And she's kind of trying to decide who do I like, and I feel at that age you kind of are like that. You kind of like everyone, but you also kind of just don't know who you are, and you get overly emotional about random things. This book definitely gives YA. I will say that Belly is a little insufferable at times, but that's because she's the age that she is. This is a young adult book, so I really enjoyed this one. I feel it's perfect summer read. Red Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and I did not like this one, guys. I think you will like this one if you like books with a lot of spice. I feel the first half of this book, I really enjoyed it, and the last half I didn't. And the first half I enjoyed it because there wasn't a ton of spice. The last half I didn't enjoy it because there was a ton of spice. It was just too much for me. I feel it overtook the storyline. But if you're looking for a book with lots of spice, this is the one. I also think that because the cover was cartoony, I was just oh, it's not gonna be super spicy. No, like absolutely not. It was a wild amount of spice. And then I loved Heartstopper. This is a queer read. I read this one, I think early last year. Finished the entire series, like read them all back to back to back. I still want to watch the show. You guys know how I am with like shows. I just have the hardest time like committing to a show. Like I just always am like, I could be reading instead. And this book I feel like will be a good show, but like Daisy Jones and the Six, I still haven't read, or I still haven't watched that show. I still haven't watched the new season of The Summer I Turned Pretty yet. Like there are so many shows that I want to watch I just haven't gotten to because I'm always like, I could be reading instead. But rated the whole series 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And this is actually like one of the books that really got me into graphic novels. I read this one and Wash Day Diaries. Both of them really loved. The Summer of Broken Rules, I think I rated this one like 2 stars, mostly because I was just like, can we like not freaking play this game like the whole book? I knew that the book was going to be about them, whether they played Capture the Flag or something like that, Assassin. They played that this entire book, and I feel like that overtook like most of the book, and it really made me like a little irritated because I was like, this is a romance. Like this is supposed to be a cutesy little book, and it was in a lot of ways, but also I just was like, can we get on with it? I am so tired of them playing Assassin. Like it was fun at first because I love playing games like that, like Capture the Flag and like, you know, summer fun games, but it just really took over the story. So I kind of got bored with it at points in the book. And then I also really enjoyed, well, I guess I wouldn't say enjoyed because all I wanted, all I needed was a book that I enjoyed the characters in it, but I didn't really care for the writing style. And I think I will read more from this author, but I'm also a little nervous because I didn't like the writing style, and I think that some people will like this, but I don't know. Like the characters were fine. I feel like the story was a little predictable. And this is a book that is very popular on like Black Book Talk, and I will be sprinkling in books that are popular there because I feel like someone needs to recommend them, you know what I mean? And like someone needs to let you know, like, are they worth it, are they not? And I did again make that video with viral book talk books, so you guys can go watch that one if you guys want to. It's like viral book talk books that are actually worth reading. So that's that first little stack, and then I have another little stack. Honestly, I feel like I made a lot of book talk videos, or not book talk videos, I've read a lot of book talk books, and a lot of them I don't normally enjoy. It has to really take a lot for me to enjoy it, and I think it's because there's a lot of spice in them. Like this book, Flawless by Elsie Silver, I ended up buying the entire series before I read the first book. That was the first and last time I've ever done that. I will never do that again because I feel like I need to read the first book first, and this was a perfect example of that. I read this, super easy read, really fast paced. I finished this super fast because like the words and all of the stuff are really easy, but like every single page there was spice, and I think I rated this one like 2 stars. So if you like a lot of spice, you will like this book. But again, to me, I feel like so many book talk books are popular, but it's like, do we like the storyline or do we like the spice, you know? And like, I feel like authors are almost getting like what's it called? Like an immediate sale if they know they're gonna have a fast-paced book with lots of spice. Like if they can make the writing like fast-paced and put in like 50 million spicy scenes like every other chapter, I feel like they're gonna have immediate like hit, and that to me is just not the type of book that I look for. And I know that it is for some people, but for me it was not. I did read Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino, which is another book talk, like popular book talk book. This, I think, is more of like the Sally Rooney girls, like a Little Life readers, like those, like, you know what I mean? Like the You Drink Black Coffee probably. Like I feel like this book wasn't for me. I didn't dislike it, it just was kind of like mid. I think that so many people will enjoy this if they enjoy more of those, like, I can't even explain it if you guys know what I'm talking about. Like the she maybe writes poetry type of girl. Like, I don't know. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. I feel like this fits in that category. And then another book that I did really enjoy was The Fine Print. I feel like this had a really good amount of spice, like not too much, not too little. And it also had a great storyline. I rated all 3 books in the series 4 stars. I think the last book was my least favorite. I could have rated that one 3.5 out of 5, but overall I just really enjoyed the series and I didn't want it to end. Read it really fast, and I was very surprised actually that I didn't really enjoy Love Redesigned by this author because I love this series so much. It's very rare for me to find a series where I just like eat up all of the characters and the storyline and all of that, but I really did love this one. And I think that most people will like this one as well. If He Had Been With Me was a 5-star read that really surprised me. I think it's because it's a young adult book, but I really enjoyed this because it reminded me of, like, I feel like the books that I always end up loving are the books that make me think of like when I was younger and like just make me have nostalgia, but also think about like how I've changed or grown or how I want to change or how I want to grow. And this book was so good. I do think that everyone won't like this book. I'm gonna say that. I think that I enjoyed it because it really made me think about like when I was younger and how I tried so hard to fit in with other people, and how I really want now as an adult to like make my own decisions and to like lead my own life and not let other people and their like thoughts or ideas like lead my like purpose, I guess. And that's what I got out of this book, but I don't think everyone's gonna get that out of this book. But I really loved it. Again, 5-star read for me. Another 5-star read for me was Before I Let Go by Katie Ryan. I talk about this book so much. This is a very popular BookTok book all over BookTok and has been for a while. The second book came out as well. Both of the books were 5-star reads for me, like truly. I feel like this book is so much deeper than just a romance. It talks a lot about like finding yourself, like clawing out of a deep, dark sadness, and just so many other things. And again, 5-star read. Love it. I recommend it all the time. And some of these books will be like overlap if you watch that video with like the popular BookTok books that I would recommend. But a lot of them won't be because there are so many here that I don't think I've talked about in a while. Because I started like getting back into reading, I'd say probably like 4 years ago. And there were some books that I didn't even put on my Goodreads, so you guys won't be able to like scroll back and even see them on there. Only for the Week by Natasha Bishop is another book that blew up on BookTok. Like so many people have talked about this book. I love this book, rated this one 4 stars. I feel like this is the book that I recommend to people if they are wanting to read a book by a Black author that is like for new readers. It's so easy to read. It's less than 300 pages. It has like mess and it has drama and it has like all things that will keep you super invested. And then getting into another stack, we have more books here. The first book is It Happened One Summer. This was a very popular BookTok book by Tessa Bailey. Read this one because everyone was talking about it and I wish I could get my time back. I didn't hate it, didn't love it though. And I ended up reading Wildfire this year, and I actually liked Wildfire, which is the second book in the series, better than this one. This one to me was like literally just giving spice. Like I just cannot tell you how many BookTok books that I've picked up where people are like, it's so good, you have to read it, you're gonna love it so much, it's the best thing you'll ever read. And I read it and I'm like, they're just hooking up the whole book. Like the story isn't even in the room with us. Like I just I didn't dislike it. Like I wasn't like, this book is terrible, but it just felt like the plot was moving through them, like hooking up mostly more than like even the story actually happening. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams was a book that I also really enjoyed. I do think that you will only really enjoy this book if you go into it not expecting like a really heavy like romance. Like I feel like the romance is a subplot of this, and like the really big focus of the book is more on like healing and growth and like finding yourself and being okay by yourself. It also talks about mental health, and it talks about like a disability like that, you know, people may not see, but it still is like there because the main character has chronic headaches or chronic migraines. I think that's what it is. So there's just so many things in this book that I feel like are very like heavy topics, and I think that you have to go into this knowing that you're going to get a romance, but also that it's going to be more of like a subplot, if that makes sense. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm pretty sure it was the book that got me obsessed with her writing. Loved this book. Now I've read more books of hers, I think that this is like not the highest on the totem pole for me. Like, I really enjoy this book, and I really enjoy Daisy Jones and the Six, and Carrie Soto is Back, but I'd say Carrie Soto is Back is probably first. Daisy Jones and the Six is probably second. This book is probably third, and then One True Loves by her is probably fourth, and then Malibu Rising by her is probably fifth. So Malibu Rising was also a book that got really big on BookTok, and Daisy Jones and the Six, but I feel like I don't need to share like 1,000,001 books by the same author in the same video, you know? I feel like sharing one is fine. But this book, I do think it takes a bit to get into, so if someone's like, hey, should I read a book by Daisy Jones, or by, not Daisy Jones and the Six, by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I don't usually recommend her books to new readers because I feel like they just take a bit to get into, but they are so, so good once you actually get into them. Another book that takes a bit to get into, but this one I did not enjoy, was A Little Life by Hanya Yangahara. I read this book and it's like, I think 800 pages, and the words are so tiny. And I, again, wish that I could get my time back. I felt so sad after this book, and not even like a sad that's like I feel like I've read sad books before where it's like it's sad, but then it's either hopeful at the end, or like, example, I read Night Crawling, and that book was like sad, but like you recognize that like this happens in real life, and like there's nothing we can do about it, but it kind of left you with a feeling that's like, I want to go out and change the world. Like, I want to make the world a little bit better because this stuff happens in real life and it's terrible. This book felt sad, but like so, not unrealistic, because like that's not even the word, because I know that people go through things like this, but like I made a whole video reading this book. It took me months to get through. But I feel like this book, like the author glamorizes like hard things, and I know that those things happen to people, like I'm very, very aware. But to me, like every life that we all live, there are good things in them. Whether you like want to like acknowledge them or not, that is like your place to do that. But I feel like the author, like on purpose, she like skipped over the good things that were happening in Jude's life and only focused on the bad. So of course, like, we're gonna empathize with him. Like, we're humans, you know? So we're gonna read this and be like, oh my God, this is the saddest story I've ever read. But like, there were still good things within the book that I feel like could have been focused on a little bit more to like give a balance to, like, yes, he had a really hard life and he went through so many hard things, but also there are good things that happen too. And I don't know, I just feel like she didn't really focus on that balance in the way that I feel like she should have. And so many people also have like talked about how she's an author who doesn't believe in therapy. I have not fact checked that, so I can't say that if that's true or not. But I feel like reading this, I was like, okay, I can see why people might think that, because like there is none of that in this book. Like, there is no like, let's talk to someone and work this out and like work through things. It's just like, you live, you go through hard things, and then you die, and you like live with that and you suffer through it. And I also didn't really like, not me like going on a rant about this book. You guys know, like, I've talked about this book many times. Like, I rated this book 2 stars because I feel like the writing was really good. So like, I have to give the book that. But I just feel like there are so many things. Like, I left this book feeling like sad, but like bad, like a icky feeling, like a, just like a very, like, if you're in a down place, like, don't read this book. Like, this book, I feel like purposely puts you in like a bad negative headspace. And it's not even like the content, because I've read like Fast by Millie Belazar, where there's like essay like on page, it's hard to read, and like all those things. But like, and Night Crawling again is like another hard one. But like, I feel like there's something in this book that I'm just like, I don't know about this. Another part that I didn't really like is there are 2 characters in this book that we're really supposed to root for them to like be together. And at the end, I was just kind of like, is this person assaulting this other person? Because this other person does not want to like engage in like things sexually with their partner. And it's very evident that the other partner knows that, and they still are like pressuring their partner to like be with them in a sexual way. And I'm like, how can I support and like really get behind this couple being together when like one of them knows that the other character does not want to do things like sexually with them and they still are like pressuring them. Like that to me is like, I don't like that. Back to fluffy books, because that book is a heavy one. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter was a really cute one. Really enjoyed it. I feel like if you're just wanting like a fluffy, easy read, nothing too heavy, you want something that's like rom-com-y vibes, very cute, you'll like this one. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I actually went into this expecting to not like it because it's so heavy on BookTok that I was just like, oh, it's probably gonna be another like super spicy, like, you know, there's really no plot, like that kind of book. And it actually wasn't. Like, I feel like there was a really good plot and I really liked the STEM representation of this book and it was just really enjoyable to read for me. I think I rated it like 3.5 out of 5 stars if I like remember correctly. And then we have another massive stack here, so many. I'm gonna try to go through these a little bit faster just because there are so many. This book right here felt like a knockoff of Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, which I think I actually have. Do I have it in the stack? Yes, I have it right here in the stack. This was a 5-star read for me. This is actually the special edition copy because someone else was borrowing my other copy. I don't think I'm gonna get it back, so I might have to buy another one because I like reading this every single year. 5 stars. This literally gives nostalgia, like when you first fell in love or you started having feelings for like just someone and you just like are like, wow, like the world is like such a beautiful, amazing place. And that is what this book gives. This book tries to be this book, I think. Like they're super similar, like in just like tropes, similar writing style, similar storyline. But this one, the ending, I cannot get over. Like one of the characters I feel like does something that is just so wild to me that I'm like, I can't really root for you anymore, so sorry. And that kind of like threw the book for a loop for me. Twisted Love was a book that I also wasn't really planning on reading because I felt like it was gonna be heavy, heavy spice, which it kind of was, but it actually was enjoyable to me. I think I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like if you like dark romance or like kind of want to dip your feet into it, this is a good one for that. It has that type of vibe. I don't really read dark romances like really ever. I have read like Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman and like, you know, just dip my toe into a bit. Like I read My Dark no, not My Dark Vanessa, because that is a literary fiction. I read My Dark Romeo, and that one was another dark romance. I did not like that one either. So I don't really dip my toe into it because I just kind of know that I'm probably not gonna like it, and I don't want to read a book and have it just be like rated really low because I know it's just not for me, you know? Like I'm not a fantasy girly, so I don't read fantasy often, but I feel like if I just read 10 fantasy books, I probably wouldn't rate them super highly because it's just not my vibe. I read them very seldom. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne was a cute read. I feel like this one was super like popular, and I feel like BookTok, when it was like really like all these books were like popping up, people were saying that things were 5 stars that to me were like 3 stars. Like this book, 3 stars. Fluffy, cute, fun, enjoyable, like, you know, made me in a happy mood. I'm never gonna think about this book ever again. I don't even know the names of these characters. What are they? Lucy and Joshua. Couldn't have told you if you told me you had $1 million to pay me if I could remember their names. Like a lot of BookTok books to me give that vibe, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. They're just enjoyable for what they are. Now, Archer's Voice. This book, I think I rated this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think that this one is worth the hype. It is very much like a soft romance. It has a unique storyline. I feel like if you want to go into something that's going to give you like comfort and just be like a nice comfort read that you can read again and again, you should read this one. It is very, very, very beautiful. It kind of reminds me of like Where the Crawdads Sing, but like for maybe like, I don't know, not like, I don't want to say for younger people because I think that anyone can really read it, but like it gives an easier read, I guess I'll say that, than Where the Crawdads Sing, but it has a similar vibe. Done and Dusted was a book that I read and I kind of wish I got my time back. I know, so many people love this book, but I just felt like it was straight spice and the writing was super easy, but it almost, the writing kind of felt middle grade to me. I don't know why. And I kind of wanted to read the second book to see like maybe it was just like the people or the characters, maybe I didn't vibe with them. But then I'm like, no, like the writing to me, I wasn't really invested in it. It felt too easy. I don't know if that even makes sense, but like I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. Didn't dislike the story. I wish there was less spice, but I think the writing for me, I just was like, I need a little bit more than that. Ace of Spades, this book hits. This reminds me of Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington, not in the sense that it's like the same story, but it gave very unique vibes. And I read this book first, and after I read this book, I was like, okay, I need to read anything like that. There was another book that's called Everyone's Thinking It, I think that's what it's called. Also very similar story. This book reminds me of like Get Out vibes, like the show or the movie. If you like that movie, you will definitely like this book. It was very hyped up on BookTok, but for a reason, and I feel like more people should read this if they haven't already. A Thousand Boy Kisses, this book was so sweet. I cried to this book. I remember really loving it. I think I rated it 4 stars. I will say that I read this book while listening to like a playlist of like sad music, and I think if I hadn't listened to that playlist, I would be like, oh my god, this book is so cheesy. It reminds me of like, well, I don't want to say like what it reminds me of, because I feel like if I say that, you guys will kind of like, it'll spoil the book a bit, but it gives like Hallmark movie, but like sad, like not Lifetime, because Lifetime's more like dramatic. Like I can't even explain it, but like it is a very sweet read, but it's super cheesy, super cheesy. So go into that knowing that it's very cheesy. It's not one of those like very deep books, but it is a very sad book, but like a cheesy sad. But I don't even know if that makes any sense. Also read Red, White, and Royal Blue. Love this book so much. I do wish there was a little bit more dialogue, because you guys know that I love dialogue, but I rated this one 4 stars. Loved it. Ate it freaking up. And I feel like this was such a good balance of like spice, but also like getting to see what was going on in their lives. Like it was really enjoyable. Again, I do wish that there was more dialogue, maybe a little bit shorter, but overall very cute story. Normal People? I think you guys are well aware that I don't like this book. Now, I did read this forever ago, so maybe if I read this now, I would enjoy it. I feel like my taste definitely has changed. But then part of me is like, no, probably wouldn't. Like, I probably would not have enjoyed this, because I still remember how I felt when I finished this, and I was like, huh? Like, that's the end? Are you serious? And I know that, like, there are books out there that, like, have a very realistic feel to them. But this one just felt too, like, too real. Felt too real. Like if I'm gonna read a book, I need to escape a little bit. I need to get something out of it that's gonna make me feel a little happy. Or if it doesn't make me feel happy, I need to like have it be like sad and then give it like a little hope at the end or something. Like if I just wanted to like have just like a very realistic time, I would just like not read books, you know? Trying to say that without spoiling anything in this book, but I think I rated this with like 2 stars, and I know so many people love this book. I just did not. The Cheat Sheet, fluffy, fun, cute. I think I rated this one like 3 stars. Again, another one of those books that is like, it should not be overhyped. It should be just a good palate cleanser, fluffy book. Like if you want something without spice, this is it. I still want to continue to read more books from this author because it was really cute, but it was nothing like to write home about. Again, don't remember the characters' names. Probably will never remember them, but I will recommend this to people who want to read books that don't have a ton of spice or don't have any spice and are like fluffy and cute. The Art of Scandal, very good book. I rated this one 4 stars. I do think it takes a bit to get into. Rated this one 4 stars mostly because it's like a unique storyline. Like the storyline reminded me of Scandal, and I feel like I get a little bored of reading books sometimes when the storyline is the same. Like I feel like sometimes authors will be like, ooh, that storyline like looks really good in that person's book. It sold really well, so let me like rewrite it and make it like just tweaked a bit and make it my own. And I don't like that. Like I want to read something very unique, and this one was definitely that. Now we're getting towards the end here. There's only a few more books left. So I'm gonna pick up both of these stacks and see if I can like just rapid fire through all of these. So these are the last books in the stack. I was gonna share Luca by Gray Huffington, but I don't think I need to talk about that book anymore because I talked about it so much in so many videos. So I feel like you guys know that I love that book. It's popular on BookTok, but not popular enough, I don't think, to be in a video like this where it's like super popular books, you know? Like it's popular, but I feel like it's gaining more popularity. Excuse Me Why I Ugly Cry, really cute book. I think initially when I read it, I was kind of like annoyed because the character didn't really seem to love being black, which I know that some black people maybe struggle like with their blackness in white spaces, but I feel like that is more like overdone in books than it needs to be. I feel like there are enough books for people who feel that way, and there need to be more books for people who really like want to embrace their blackness in white spaces, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I read so many books about black characters who are in white spaces, but they're like, oh, like I don't know if I want to like wear my hair like this or do that, and like that's great because there are people like that. I mean, I was probably that person in high school, like if I really thought back to it, but I feel like we need a lot of books that are going to empower people to be confident in themselves, and I feel like there are not enough books of that type of like trope. So enjoy this book. It was cute. I think I rated it like 3.5 stars, something like that. It's definitely a book that I recommend a lot because it has a unique plot line where like the character in this book, she has a notebook where she writes all these things she wants to do, and then she ends up losing the notebook, and like it has like kiss this boy and like all these things that she like doesn't want anyone to know about, and so she's like, okay, I definitely have to get that back. So the whole book is like her trying to find this like book, but then she finds out that someone is kind of blackmailing her, and they're like, if you don't do this thing on your list by tomorrow, I'm gonna like share this part of the notebook to the school. So I feel like it's super intriguing. You'll finish it fast. It's a young adult book. It's definitely one I'd recommend. But again, there was like one scene in this book where like her dad was home and she had some friends over from school, and she had I think like 3 white girls or something that came over to her house to study, and then she had like one of her friends who was black. He came over and her dad was like, what are you trying to do in here? You trying to steal from me? And I'm like, wait. Your dad thinks that this guy who is coming over to study with all these other people, like he thinks that he's gonna like try to steal or something. Like it was something like that. I can't even remember. I read it like so long ago, but I was just like so confused. Cause I'm like, I understand if maybe she doesn't celebrate her blackness or she's like working through that cause she's young, but like your dad's an adult. Like why is he thinking that? Like that's weird. So yeah, I really liked it, but that just part literally just irked me, like irked my soul. Beach read, really enjoyed this one. I haven't read this one in a long time. I used to rate like books on a scale of like 10 before I started using like the 5 scale, and I read this before I even had Goodreads, and I genuinely don't even really know for real like how I would rate that now, because it's like I just read it so long ago. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a video where I read like old books again to see how I feel about them, because I don't even fully remember this book, but I do remember how I felt. I loved reading Funny Story by Emily Henry this year. Didn't really like reading Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I really loved Happy Place by Emily Henry. And I love this one, at least from what I can remember. So I don't know, I love this one, but again, my taste could be different. I think that what I love about Emily Henry's books is that she does have a little bit of spice, but not too much. And she also has like a deeper storyline than just the romance, but it's not too like the romance isn't too like buried beneath those themes. So I love her book. She's an auto-buy author for me. Honey and Spice by Babalola. I love this book so much. I feel like this is a great book if you like the show Dear White People, because it talks a lot about like college and like navigating that as a black woman, but also navigating like the whole, you know, being single and like men and like just how datings and relationships and like friendship and stuff can have drama within it. It is just like a very true college experience. And like when people talk about Icebreaker and they're like, oh my God, Icebreaker is like such a great book for college, like people act just like this in college. It's like, yeah, they do, but like I feel like I acted more like these characters in college, and I feel like it's because I had some home training. Okay, maybe not home training, but like, wasn't there a scene in this book where she's like hooking up with like the guy, like Nathan, in the back of an Uber or something? Like I literally no, like absolutely not. Like in college, like, okay, this just felt more true to college, like more realistic. And there also were like topics of like racial discrimination and like people kind of like coming against the school being like this and that, it's not okay. It felt very realistic and I enjoyed it a lot. Another book y'all know that I love is Magnolia Parks. I don't even need to talk about this book because I talk about it so much, but 5 freaking stars. Love this book. And I think I love it because the characters just grow on you as the books go on, but this book has so much like mess in it that you don't want to like, you want to figure out what happens. Like it kind of leaves you at the end where you're like, like, oh my God, this thing happened. So like you want to keep reading, and this is one of my I don't know if I even say one of mine. This is my favorite series. Like, I love this series so much. Like, if I ever got a tattoo, it would probably be something from this book. Like, after I got a tattoo with Brady, because my man. That would be first, you know? But I love, like, I would maybe get like a deer, like a Bambi like thing, or like maybe like I don't know, it'd have to be something like for Magnolia, because Magnolia is that girl. Like, this is a book that I think I love because it gives Gossip Girl vibes, but it also like has like, they have private jets. Like Magnolia, she's black, which I feel like you don't see in a lot of books either, where like the main character is a black character who's like super rich. I just love so many things about this book. It is, and the writing style feels like poetry. There's so many like quotable things. I want to reread this again. Like, I genuinely am, like, just touching this book makes me want to read it again. Like, I could just eat it up. I love it. And Monday's Not Coming is another good book that I really liked. I think I rated this one like 3 or 3.5 stars. But this book is for those of you who maybe want a book that's not like a true thriller, but kind of like feels like a thriller. Because this is like YA, so it kind of like gives thriller vibes, but I wouldn't say that it's like a true thriller. It is about this girl whose best friend goes missing and pretty much no one really cares, which honestly is like so true to a lot of like black girls just in like the United States. And so her best friend like starts looking for her and goes on this like kind of quest to like figure out where she's at. And it gets wild. I did enjoy this a lot. And I ended up buying like 3 more books from this author. After that, read Powerless. Guys, I think I was expecting to be obsessed with this. I expected that this would be my first 5-star like fantasy, because I love like romance books, and people are like, this is heavy on the romantasy, or like on the romance part of it. But I felt like the book was definitely YA, like it was definitely young adult. So I feel like it was taking a lot from like Hunger Games, Divergent vibes. Like, I felt like the story was one I'd heard before, even though I was reading it for the first time. Did I buy the like mini little book that just came out? What is it called? Powerful? I think that's what it's called. Yes, I bought it, and I'm definitely gonna be reading the second book in this series too, but I think I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I expected it to be a 5. I feel like if I had went into it with low expectations, maybe it would have been a 4, but because my expectations were so high, it just didn't do it for me. Then I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I think I rated this like 1 star. Like, I'm so serious. I had a hard time empathizing with people who are so rich that the like thing that they're fighting over is who's gonna get like this big like mansion thing. Like, that was like the crux of the book. It's like, who's gonna get the money? And it's like, y'all are all rich, so you'll be fine regardless. Obviously there was like another thing that was like a plot line that was going on throughout the book, but most of it was set around like these parents arguing over this like estate, and it was just kind of like boring to me. Like, I just was like, okay, like someone's gonna get it, and someone who's gonna get it is already rich, so like that's fine. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, rated this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Love this book. I think I loved it because the writing is so easy to read. Like, I finished this in like 24 hours, I'm pretty sure, and almost every book by Abby Jimenez I finished that fast. I think Just for the Summer is my favorite book of hers, and now if I could look back on this book, like when I first finished this, I don't know if I would rate it 4.5 out of 5 stars or not, but I feel like it's very rare for me to read a book in 24 hours, so I feel like maybe it stands. I don't know. Speaking of reading books in 24 hours, another book I read in 24 hours, yeah, this one, Fourth Wing. Like, so surprising to me. I think it's most surprising because, one, this book is 519 pages. It's also super tall, super thick. Finished it in 24 hours and rated this one 4 stars. Very, very, very fun read. I feel like I liked how unique it was. Have I read Iron Flame yet? No, I haven't, because I've heard like it's not as fun as this one. I think that this is the perfect fantasy for new readers. There's so much dialogue in it, but I can also understand why people who normally read fantasy didn't like this, because this to me didn't feel like a fantasy. Like, it felt more like just like a regular book with like some magical things in it. And obviously that is a fantasy, like that's the category it's in, but it didn't feel like a true fantasy. Punk 57. Did this guy, what's his name, Miles? No. Misha? I don't know. I literally don't even know. Did he even like the main character? I will never know, because the way that he talked to her, I was like, you have to be out of your freaking mind if you were to talk to me like that ever. Like literally ever. The way that he talked to her and the way that they like would hook up with each other, like they would hook up and be like, oh, I hate your guts, like you're just the worst, and then they like make out, and I'm like, ew, like I don't like that. So this book was hyped up on BookTok. My first Penelope Douglas book. They are a writer that I feel writes kind of out there books. So I don't know if I'll read anything from them again, but we will see. I also read Anxious People by Friedrich Backman. I think that this is the type of book that the Little Life, Normal People, Sally Rooney vibes type reader would like to read. I am not that type of reader. I didn't like this book. I feel like Friedrich Backman just maybe isn't for me. I know so many people like their writing, but for me, I felt like this. Have you seen the show Fantastic Mr. Fox? Like that cartoon? I think it's a cartoon. This felt like that, like trying to be quirky, trying to have like a very deeper meaning, kind of like Midnight Library, which Midnight Library was not quirky. That was another book I almost put in this stack, but I was just like, is anyone really picking up Midnight Library like to read? Like, I don't know. But I feel like that book tried so hard to have this deeper message, which it did, but also like the delivery was like the story wasn't that fun to read. Like the message was great. And if it was only the message, like I could have got that in a podcast. Like this book kind of felt like that. Like I love the message of it. Like you never know what someone's going through. Like we're all going through hard things, like that kind of thing. But it was super quirky. And I feel like the author was trying to make it be like quirky. And I don't know, maybe this would be a funnier movie than a book. Another book that I read, and I rated this one 2 stars, guys. I know. I've read the second book in this series too, and I think I rated it like 1 star. I have the third book sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, I didn't like the first or second book, and I honestly like can say that the only reason that they got like this got 2 stars is because I finished it super fast. Like this is almost a 600-page book, and I finished it super fast because the writing is super easy to read. But this man is 40 years old. This man fights with his brother, like physically fights, like rolling, wrestling in their front yard. This man pees in their backyard. Like, and I'm from the Midwest. And like people, you know, it's like people kind of, they do some stuff that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll really do that. This man is 40, and I feel like he acted like a child most of this book, and that just irked my soul. There was one part in like it was like he was in a bar, and the girl that he liked, I think, was in there. I don't know if he liked what she was wearing or didn't like what she was saying or something, but he like threw her over his shoulder and like walked out of the bar. He's like this big burly guy, and it's like, yeah, that's not cute. You are not gonna like pick me up, throw me over your shoulder, and like take me out of a bar because you didn't like something I did or wore or whatever. Like stuff like that. He just seemed kind of controlling to me, and I feel like there are some books where the characters are controlling and it doesn't bother me. Mostly it's the books that are like dark romance, and I think it's because I kind of go into it with like that mindset. But I don't know what it is about a small town man being controlling that really irks my soul. And I think because like the guys who are like in the dark romance books, they're kind of like protecting someone from something. It's like, oh, they're protecting them from like the mafia, or they're protecting them from, I don't know, whatever. Like you are not protecting anybody from anything in this book. I mean, kind of he felt like he was, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people will enjoy this book, and I have recommended this book to people because the writing is easy. It's a small town romance. There is a lot of spice, so I feel like a lot of people will connect with this book. Personally, me, just the characters, I just was like, I don't really like you guys. Don't like you guys, and if I can't connect with the characters, I might as well be reading a thriller, because thrillers, I feel like I never connect with the characters, and I'm fine with that. But romances, I have to connect with the characters. I feel like that's how I really enjoy a story. And The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, I think this is one of her most popular books. I've read By the Book by her, Drunk on Love by her. I've read The Royal Holiday by her. I've read The Wedding Date by her. And I feel like I've read one more book by her. I've read a lot of books by her. They're very enjoyable. I feel like these are books that I love recommending because they're always in Barnes & Noble, and I feel like if you're wanting to read a book by a Black author, it's a good start. Fluffy, fun, nothing too deep, nothing too wild. Like, you're just gonna have a good time. Just gonna be a good time, that's it. And I feel like that is this book is doing the job that it set out to do if you're having a good time, because I feel like that's kind of like the vibe of this book. And that is all the book talk books that I'm going to be sharing my honest opinions about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys take all these reviews with a grain of salt, because if you love a book that I didn't love, that is totally okay. I know that books are, I feel like people connect with books based on their own personal experiences. So like, maybe you love a small town romance with like a controlling boy because maybe your boyfriend's controlling. Like, I don't know. I feel like we all connect with books in different ways because our own experiences. So, you know, it is okay if we don't like the same books, but I do want to share my honest opinion, because I feel like when I went into these books, I was expecting them all to be like 5-star reads because everyone was like obsessed with them, and like BookTok gives a lot of recs, but some of them are duds, and that's okay. So, and some of them are gems. Obviously, as you guys can see, so many of these books I've talked about that I love, obsessing about, just can't stop talking about. Magnolia Parks. So, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.